The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Got it. We are recording.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. We're here again. Yes,
regardless of you're listening or not, we are here.
That's right
for you.
We just get this is what is like those zombie movies where someone's just in an outpost somewhere leaving a message, hoping that somebody hears them.
Yep.
No zombies this week, though. When we get into the wild robot, I'm sure that you have stories about children in your theater.
I do, but not in my theater, in the adjacent, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
So,
was there a melee?
Father was completely frustrated. So,
all right. So I got one news item. Do you want to go news item? And then we'll go right into, hold on. Does anybody even listening know what we're covering? We are covering the wild robot, which is just dropped 2 days ago.
It did. We're on the edge with this one.
We are on the edge of this one. Since we've gone to this bi-weekly, we've been a little behind, but sometimes that works to our advantage because people get to see it. Yes. And then there's episodes like last episode where nobody listened, regardless. I don't get it.
Big movies, right? Big movies, and
big movies.
Cares. Yeah,
nobody cares. So anyways, yes. What are we covering? So we have a pairing, which actually watching both of these, I think, was pretty spot on.
Yeah. Wild Robot, as you said, yep. Along with Short Circuit.
Wow. I will tell you, when my daughter picked this up from the library for me, the lady, because of course my child has to, quantify the fact this is not for me. This is for my father. Like you're picking up porn or something. And the lady behind the counter was just like, I remember this movie. Your dad must be the same age as me. Okay. That's
funny because the lady behind the desk at my library said, "Oh, I've got to rent this myself when it comes back."
Did she really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was big when it dropped.
It was a hit. It was a hit,
actually.
Although it wasn't I think I read that it was number 21 in 1986 on the box office rankings, but still when it
better
dropped, than 50.
That is true. Would have been more apt if it was number 5, but.
Oh, yes, it would have.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll get there. So let's do news. One news item this week, and this has been long gestating, and we've gotten official confirmation. Spider-Man 4 is a go. Yeah, I know we will have Tom Holland. Tom Holland is returning. This is going to be a co-production with Disney and Marvel, just like the previous. But we're going to have a new director. And that is Destin Daniel Cretton, who has previously directed Shang-Chi and is currently working on the Wonder Man Disney Plus series. Initially, he was attached as a director for Avengers Kang Dynasty. And then once all that brouhaha happened, he dropped out. So, Tom Holland is back. He's 42 now?
No,
he's not. He's got to be in his late 20s, not early 30s.
But that seems to happen to, that creeps up on our Spider-Man actors. You saw Tobey Maguire.
Wait till this new season of Stranger Things drops. These kids are going to be grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris McKenna and Eric Somers are writing the script, and it is going to be co-produced by Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal. So it's pretty much the same pedigree of these last Disney / Marvel
/ Sony
Spider-Man movies, which are now playing on TV every 24 hours. They're just around the clock. They're pretty well done.
And if Sony knew what was good for them, they would actually start tying these movies in to the movies they're trying to produce on their own. So,
Oh, you mean the Venom movies? I did
and
see the trailer for that, The Last Dance,
yeah,
where Venom is a horse. I don't know. I never watched the second one.
it
So
was all right. They're all right. They're
yeah.
the shining star of these Sony standalone movies. Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
they're romantic comedies. They're buddy comedies. So um I'm not on board with those. But that's fine. And that's really all the news I have. But there is nothing else. You would think that more would be going on in this world. But I will say I've been offline for the last week. I've been trying to stay out of the news cycle. So maybe something dropped that I missed, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. So let's get into it, shall
Let's
we?
go. Wild Robot. So we saw the trailer for this a while back, and I was immediately enamored. Like, this just looks fantastic. It looked gorgeous. And one thing I will say, in the initial trailer, no dialogue.
But as you point out, a plethora of voice actors are revealed at the end of this no dialogue trailer. So
Yeah. So now immediately
unless
I'm
they're
like,
just motion capturing everything,
so
but no,
right.
it's filled with, it's almost like in the Disney vein of talking animals dialogue.
Yeah, with big name actors that I don't think we need.
Well, I didn't realize who was who
Correct.
necessarily until
Right.
the
So then
end
what's
roll.
the point?
So
Then what's the point? Don't stunt cast voice actors and then give them 2 lines of dialogue. So, right, that trailer at the end, all these big names drop it, and one of them is Mark Hamill. So I'm spending the entire movie going, is that Mark Hamill? Is that Mark Hamill? Is that Mark Hamill? No, he was a bear who had 2 lines of dialogue. This guy probably phoned it in. He probably just sat at home, recorded his line, and then went back to bed.
Although I will give it to Pedro Pascal for voicing the fox.
Who again, I didn't pick up that it was him.
I didn't pick up that was him, but he did an excellent job. And maybe another actor might not have been able to hit those spots that he did.
Right. And our main character, Roz, is Lupita Nyong'o, who again, I didn't realize that was her, but because she's
I only knew that because of the trailer, because her name is like right up front.
Right
in
up
the
front.
Trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's strike number 1. So when you went in, all right, so let's talk about the theater experience, because when I got there, so I had to, again, I just mentioned I was away on vacation. I had every intention on seeing it while I was on vacation up in the Adirondacks. I was coerced into staying an extra day so that my wife had some downtime. And so we did not get home until 12:30 yesterday, which was a Saturday. So now I have to unload the car and then race to the movie theater so I could see this in a timely fashion, process it, and hopefully come up with some notes. And I will say, for a 1:00 showing on a Saturday, there was a fair amount of kids, as expected, because it's a kids movie. And I followed a mom and a little boy into the theater, and I held the door for them. So when I left the theater, the little boy held the door for me because they happened to be right in front of me again. Oh. And I asked him, "So, buddy, what'd you think? What'd you think of the movie?" And his response was, "Eh." I'm like, wow. My kids were rowdy until halfway through.
There weren't really a lot of kids in mine. I went to the earliest show, and it wasn't that early. It was about noon, and it was mostly adult couples that were in there with a smattering of kids. Probably about 4, 5 years old was the average age, but I would say that maybe there was about 5 to 10 kids total in my theater.
Okay. Wow.
But as I was saying as we were leaving the movie, the next showing was in the theater, across from us. And there was a father with 2 little kids, like a 2-year-old boy and probably a 4-year-old girl, saying, and he was saying, "You really upset me when you act this way," to the little boy.
Oh
And
boy.
he's like, "Am I not good? Am I not good? No, you're not."
Oh, please, Papa, tell me how I can
Can
be
we go
good.
in to see the rest of the movie? No, we can't.
Oh, he pulled him out.
He pulled him out. He pulled him out.
Ah,
And the girl
that's
was like, "But I want to see the movie." And he's like, "You were good. You weren't." And this little boy, I felt bad for him
holy
because
crap. This is, yeah. So now she's mad at him, the little boy, because he has now ruined her experience.
yeah.
Yeah, this is my son coming home from school getting mad at the teacher because some little boy acted up. And so the whole class was punished.
Mhm.
And my son was, why do I have to be punished?
Right.
Yeah, I remember my parents, the first time they tried to take us to the drive-in to go see E.T., my sister, who was 10 years younger than me, was inconsolable. And we left the drive-in. And I was mad at her to this day. We did finally see it in a theater. The only movie I think my mother ever took me to the theater to go see,
Right.
when I was a certain age. But yeah, that sucks.
It
So now
does.
this little girl's gonna go to school the next day, and all their friends, hey, did you see the Wild Robot? No, Johnny ruined it for me. Your brother's an idiot. What do you think this kid is doing to warrant being dragged out of a theater?
I don't know. I could
Yeah.
envision like running up and down the aisles or what have you, or throwing stuff. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just glad I wasn't in little Johnny's theater.
No, because it would have taken away.
Yeah.
Did you get? I barely made it in there to see trailers, and of course they're all like little kid movies, Moana 2 and whatnot. One which I didn't even, something about kittens. But did you see this trailer for Dog Man? And I know it's based on a series of books.
I did. That's my son used to collect those books, so I'm familiar
it's Dave
with the character.
Pilkey. I think it's Dave Pilkey.
Yeah,
who
same
also
guy that
created,
did Captain Underpants.
Captain Underpants, and there's another dragon one because I remember my kids are reading those. But I'm watching this trailer, and the character is literally a police officer whose head is replaced by a dog.
Yes.
I was taken aback by that. I'm like, wait, that's the premise of this whole series.
That is of the book as well. So
the cop is dead. This is like RoboCop.
Yep. And they make him stronger, better.
Well,
as a dog.
Let's just put the dog's head on that guy who's now dead.
So
okay.
this is fantastic. I think that they've even made this into that it even existed as a book in the first place. But now that they made it into the movie, I'm on board. I'm going to go see it.
Okay. I'm neutral on this one. And the kids were all into these trailers, Moana and the whole thing. They were hitting all the beats until the trailer for Wicked dropped. And you have to wonder, are some of these kids, are they even of the age that their parents have shown them Wizard of Oz yet? Do they know of Wizard of Oz?
That's one for the moms and the dads that are in the audience.
I guess so. And it's not, it's a full 4 or 5 minute trailer. I mean, it just keeps going. And my theater got very silent. It's like they are not buying this. So yeah, this is DreamWorks animation.
It is. So you get a new DreamWorks opening. So you get the greatest hits of DreamWorks displayed there.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen that animation studios.
Ending in, of course, Shrek.
Shrek was the biggest in the first. Sure, they're going to be milking that cow. Oh, we already talked about that. They're bringing them all back. But so we talk about this, the trailer, where all these, big name actors, voice actors, and the one thing that gets buried is the director, because he also wrote the screenplay, Chris Sanders. And if you don't know this name, he has directed Lilo and Stitch, The Croods, and How to Train Your Dragon. But he has written screenplays for Mulan, Lion King, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast.
But more importantly, he is the voice of Stitch as well.
That's true. I didn't even write that in my notes. But so the pedigree right out of the gate. Chris Sanders, who I guess most kids would know. Most people wouldn't even care. Most people don't care about the director unless it's Tim Burton or Steven Spielberg. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, because I've really stayed away from this. Outside of that one trailer, And then when you told me there's a second trailer that actually has the animals talking, I was really kind of let down because I wanted it to be a high level art film, and that's not what we got.
No,
that's not what we got. Although I'm going to tell you right now, I think that there's probably a way you can get away with this movie without dialogue.
You probably could, but that would never pass I think the green light stage at DreamWorks in the boardroom.
What? Animals that don't talk?
Yeah, it would be a different studio, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's a really basic setup.
It is a basic setup.
Yeah, this robot that falls out of a plane with 6 other robots in a container.
We found out that it was a cargo ship.
Yeah. Ends up on an island, and the container breaks open, and this is the only robot that's still in one piece and that can turn itself on. And it's pretty much Baymax on an island.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I need a function.
Yeah. Are you satisfied with my task? Goes as far as saying that. So all there is around it is wildlife. So it's going to ask every single animal, what can I do? What can I do? They're all running away from it, and it realizes it has to communicate with these animals. So it shuts itself down, listens to everything around it, and suddenly it knows how to speak every animal when it wakes back up. Cool. Which is, so that everything is in English after, all the animals are just talking, and so is the robot.
So the animals all understand each other.
Yeah. And during one snafu, when she wakes up a bear, she falls down a cliff and smashes on top of a goose's nest, and crushes the mother, crushes the eggs, except for one. So she realizes there's something in that egg. She picks it up, and she becomes its mom for the rest of the movie.
Although it doesn't really seem to know what it's doing.
Well, that's the whole point of it. It's like, nobody knows what they're doing when they become a mom. So,
as the possum tells her.
Yeah.
With the 7 babies, I don't know if you noticed, but at one point, one of them falls you hear it off screen that it sounds like it was eaten. Yes. And the mom goes, one day when you have 6, Mommy, I'm okay. I lived.
Yeah, but of course.
But throughout the rest of the movie, there's only 6. So at one point, she does lose one. And there's a lot of sight gags about animals getting eaten in the circle of life.
Yes. And there's a fox, as we mentioned, that's voiced by Pedro Pascal, that becomes her kind of the dad of the gosling.
I don't remember him introducing himself, but his name is Fink.
Yeah, he did at one point say his name was. I wrote down Think. I thought he said
Think. Well, it's hard to understand, especially from the little gosling who she ends up naming Bright Bill.
Right.
Voiced by this kid, Kit Connor. I couldn't find anything else that this kid's done that I recognized. But yeah, I mean, this is visually, it's stunning. It is very painterly. The landscapes are incredibly nice. You find out later that they're somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. They're on an island. And one of the things that gives it away are those, you see the basalt columns that they're like these hexagon, pentagon shapes. And they only occur in certain areas around the world. And there is a spot somewhere in Devil's Postpile National Monument in California. Because later we do see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Underwater, by the way. So this is set in the future.
So this is set in the future. And this is the one thing it's established immediately that this is not some robot. This is not Iron Giant. This is not Wall-E. This is not some creature from another planet. So it's a household appliance that basically fell out of its box. And it's a dishwasher that just, please put some dishes in me so I have a function.
Yeah. And that's what she starts out with doing with the egg. Like, she wants to complete its task by seeing this through. She thinks it's done once the egg is hatched, but then she realizes, nope, your task is not over with. So
yeah. And she changed the robot design is pretty simplistic, round with wiry arms and whatnot, but in the round head, and they changed colors. We'll talk about in Short Circuit, the way that number 5's, like, he's got these eye plates that raise and lower like eyebrows.
Yes.
That somehow, it gives them a lot of emotion. Here, not so much, but I think you still understand what's going on with the eyes and whatnot. And yeah, the little duckling, immediately imprints on her, and that's my mom. But yeah, so it's like the three of them and a little fox, and they're just kind of wandering around. And he says she's got 3 things to accomplish to get rid of this duck. You got to teach it to eat, teach it how to swim, and teach it how to fly. It needs to fly away in time for winter.
In the process of doing this, it meets other ducks, but because it was the runt of the litter, as Fink tells her, it was the runt of the litter, it wouldn't have lived anyway. How he is so wizened, I don't know, but about goslings.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. Well, he lies to her and says, I know all about goslings. And then later she says, do you really know? And he goes, well, I know they taste good, but
yeah, but later the head gosling, the elder Longneck, confirms that. Like, if this gosling had stayed with its family, it wouldn't have survived.
It wouldn't have survived.
Yeah.
So by killing the family, and that's the one thing that's like the big secret that she keeps from him. This little duck doesn't know any better because he's not around other ducks. So this is just his mom. But the other ducks think differently. They're like, you're a freak. You're hanging out with that monster. I don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Except for the long neck, because he's talking to the robot saying,
he's been there. Yeah.
If you can get this thing flying, then we will bring it down with us for our migration. So that is her job from that point on, and she succeeds. And this all really kind of happens in a rat-a-tat time frame. I'll give this to this movie. It does move.
Yeah, it's like
and
it's
not too long.
40 minutes.
So
although there was a couple sequences that I thought was like out of left field, but I guess that's once you kind of introduce the idea that they're in the future, and then we see humans, then now I want to know more. Because again, you see the Golden Gate Bridge. It is almost completely covered by water, indicating that the oceans have risen. Whales are swimming above it. Beautiful graphics. And that these humans live in almost like Atlantis-style sea cities. And they've got all this agriculture that they're growing within.
Right, but they're above the water. They're not under.
Yeah, correct.
The water.
No, they're not underwater. Right. Well, Atlantis until it sank was above water. So, but yeah, you get glimpses of humans. You don't really get a lot of interaction with them. You get a lot of the stuff's been automated to these robots, and that's where this Rosum unit comes in. Like I said, a household appliance.
Yeah. So about halfway through the movie, she succeeds in getting Bright Bill to fly. And he leaves. I'm like, is the movie over?
I know. Yeah, that's it. Right. And it's a beautiful sequence. There's a lot of nice stuff going on here. These little training sequences where, Long Neck's telling her, listen, he needs stamina. He needs to figure out how to get off the ground and stay off the ground from sun up to sundown. So this is like Rocky montage, of this thing. She builds a runway. He's training with rocks. He's lifting rocks to build up his strength of his wings. Even like when she first finds him and she has to figure out what to feed him, and the fox is just tricking her into pulling up all this food that he's eating so that the baby's until he digs up the worms, the fox just getting fat, eating all the stuff, going, yeah, no, this is fine. This is great, man. Keep going.
Roz assumes that once Bright Bill flies away, she can then activate her rescue transmitter or whatever off the top of her head so she can alert the company that made her. Right? Was it Universal Dynamics or something?
Something like that. Yeah. But that's another running gag, which she tries numerous times.
But this is where the feels come in, because after Bright Bill is gone and winter sets in on the island, she decides not to turn on her transistor. Firstly, because she wants to see Bright Bill again, because he's going to come back after. Yeah,
because she originally told him, I'm not going to be here. And she does go to the top of the mountain and sets it off.
Yep.
And then
the fox comes and talks her out of it. But then her next task, even before Bright Bill comes back, is to save all the other animals, because they have a winter like they've never seen before. So even these animals that have hibernated are all in danger of dying due to the elements.
And at one point, they even find one that's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's dragging them all out, including the bear, and dragging them back to this big house that she built at the beginning of the movie. And they all started eating each other. You put predator and prey in the same room.
But then the bear comes in tandem. The bear and the robot kind of shut everybody up, and truce. While we're in here, nobody eats anybody.
Yep. And then we get that winter comes to spring, and then they're all out of hibernation.
Yeah. So the end of the movie is Bright Bill comes back, and he finally, up to that point, he hadn't really accepted because he learned the truth about Roz. And he went off with the other Goslings to migrate, kind of miffed at her. They hadn't really had closure.
Yeah, they didn't. He even says to Longneck at one point, he says, what happens if, I had something to say to somebody, or I wanted to tell them I love them and didn't get a chance to. Yeah. And this is where the idea that, this robot communicates with its heart as well.
And I have to give it up that I assumed that the robot would die at the end of the movie, last episode, because it just seemed that that's where it was going from the trailer.
Sure, it could have gone right into Iron Giant territory.
Yeah, it's not the case. There's hope at the end of this.
Brightbeak leaves with the flock, and they end up landing storm or something, and they end up landing in this city, and are immediately attacked because they're considered a contamination. That's where we lose Longneck. There's a big, huge, you got to lead these guys out of here kind of a thing. So there's almost like a battle sequence where they're being shot at and the ducks are flying around. But then they come back to the island, and this is where the company steps in to take Roz, and they have this big, huge battle with this other robot that's just trying to retrieve her. Now all of a sudden this tentacled robot is like a bad guy.
The dialogue that this tentacled robot is given, you think that she's there to destroy Roz, but it turns out in the end, no, she just wanted to take her back and
just bring her back.
Yeah.
But they weren't concerned about the other 5 that were still marooned on the island as well in pieces. Like they seemed to think that she was like an integral, like again, she just sounded like she was going to Walmart so that someone could buy her off the shelf. She's like Rosie the robot.
Yeah, no, I think, though, that they recognized that there was something off about this robot, that it programmed itself. And that's why they were so interested in getting it back. But again, by the very, very end of the movie, because Roz shuts itself down because she realizes that they're never going to stop coming after her.
Right. So then she sets a beacon out again. So they fight to free her, blow up the ship. And then she's like, crap, they're going to just keep coming. So then she sets the beacon again and lets them come and take her.
And she says to Bright Bill, they're going to shut me down, but there's something in me that will always remember you.
Yeah, because they almost pretty much tortured her and she looked like she was dead. Yeah. And when he found her, he snuggled in and somehow rejuvenated her.
Right. But they still take her. So at the very end.
So they got exactly what they were trying to do.
Yeah. So I think that at the end they're migrating again, and they come to the same city. And Bright Bill, flies in to fields like orange fields or whatever that they were planting in this domed city, and finds Roz. And Roz, for a second, doesn't recognize him, but then the memory kicks in, and that's the end of the movie.
I am Roz. You can call me Roz.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't get as emotional as I thought I was going to.
There was one scene, I think, when she was teaching Bright Bill how to fly, or maybe when they left the first time for the migration, where they whitewashed on the.
Yeah.
There was one where they tried. They tried.
Actually, I'll tell you right now, the biggest emotion wave I got was after the whole flock had left, and she runs up to the top of the mountain, and she's leaning over, holding onto the tree. And Longneck takes his little V formation with Brightbeak, and they do a flyby of her.
Yes.
So he can say a final goodbye. That was the point where I got goosebumps. Oh my God, you got me. You got me with that one.
So it's beautiful to look at. right?
It is gorgeous. It is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
The opening scene when Roz first opens her eyes and looks at these otters, I thought that was a real shot. I'm like, did they? That looked real to me.
They trained the sea otters.
It was like the background, especially like I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So they've come so far with this animation.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar. So this is based on a book by Peter Brown, I believe is the Peter Brown, who there's 2 books in this series. I'm assuming that this style is reminiscent of what the book looks like. Because we just mentioned this Dogman. I mean, the style was pretty much what the book looks like. I didn't do my research on that, but you go to IMDb and it's like 8.6 or something. It's pretty high up there. People are raving about it. My kids were a little silent by the end of the movie. I don't really know what they thought.
I mean, it was okay. It was a cutesy, schmaltzy.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and maybe it's not a boy movie because it really is about motherly instincts.
Yeah, it's definitely for the younger set. We'll put it that way. It's not a, Shrek that can play to various
there's not a lot
groups.
of right. Well, you got pop culture references in Shrek, and you kind of breaks into contemporary song and stuff like that. That is not this at all. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I feel that there probably is a way to do this movie a little more highbrow without a lot of dialogue, because most of the action you don't need to kind of have it spoon fed to you. You can figure out what's going on, especially those sequences where she's trying to get him, to learn how to swim. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice. It was, like I said, it was gorgeous to look at.
But not what you were expecting, correct?
And I should have known better that of course they're going to be talking animals. Mm-hmm. So, but I will stand by my statement that I hate stunt casting with voice actors. There's a ton of voice actors out there. That's what they do for a living. Mark Hamill's almost unrecognizable as the bear, but he's got 2 lines of Ving Rhames, So basically, you have half the cast of Star Wars. You got Maz Kanata, Luke Skywalker, and the Mandalorian in this movie, and you bring in Ving Rhames, and now you're talking Cobra Bubbles, which is fine. Ving Rhames, the minute you hear that voice, you're like, oh, I know that voice. And that is one character I think the Falcon Thunderbolt is not in the book. And he's, again, blipping, you blink and you'll miss him, the character. He comes in just to teach him how to fly.
So how many buckets would we give the Wild Robot?
I think it's 4.25. I think it's still a pretty impressive movie. And like you said, it's kind of in and out. It's an hour and 40 minutes. You got to hold those kids' attentions. It's interesting watching movies like this with kids. They didn't get restless, but by the end of it, it was just silence. And I don't know if they were just shocked to think, all right, this stupid robot now just went back. But
I'd give it 3.5. Again, it's beautiful to look at, and it's likable characters, but I can't see myself watching it again. So, if you've got a little kid, then by all means, it's inoffensive and it's got some nice messaging.
Oh, I would definitely watch this again. If I come across this on TV or whatnot, I probably would watch it, but just for the visuals. Maybe I'll just mute it and see if it holds up.
All right. So let's go to the concession stand.
All right, let's go to the concession. It's my treat this week. And since both of our movies have furry friends, I thought it only appropriate that we dive into animal crackers.
Oh.
Not necessarily a treat you'd find at the concession stand, but something you might be able to sneak in.
Yes. All right. Let's get into it.
So let's go. So animal biscuits have been around since the late 19th century as an English treat. But imports to the U.S. increased demand to the point where American bakers took notice and soon started making them domestically under the name we all know and love, Animal Crackers. And there was more than a few companies that even to this day make Animal Crackers. But the first was this company called Stauffer Biscuit Company. And they still, to this day, make Animal Crackers. But we're going to be talking about the National Biscuit Company, which is now owned by Nabisco. and their Barnum's Animal brand, which was established in 1902 and sold for a whopping 5 cents a box. Well, I'll backtrack a little bit. So initially, they were not sold in boxes. They were sold in large tins and giant barrels. This is literally where we get the phrase Cracker Barrel from.
Oh.
But Nabisco was the first to actually sell the crackers in a box. So that was kind of, yeah. And again, the boxes were like 5 cents a piece. So the name is a nod to Barnum and Bailey Circus, obviously, with the animals. But because the usage of the Barnum name extends so far back, and because it technically only references the showman P.T. Barnum himself and not the circus, Nabisco does not pay any licensing fees to the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus Company. So they're skirting around licensing issues, but apparently it's been going on for well over 100 years, and the circus has missed out. Because to me, they're almost synonymous.
Yeah.
All right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So originally the Barnum crackers were a very basic design, crude outlines being formed by a simple stamping cutter. But then technology, production evolved in the 50s with the inclusion of rotary dies. And then this new method, which I guess is still in use today, allowed for more intricate designs on the animal-themed crackers. So if you think about the crackers, like the zebras, you can actually see the little stripes on them. Mm-hmm. They actually have detail. They actually have details on them. Where, again, some of the more generic animal crackers are just like these little poofy shapes that you can barely make out. Is this a rhinoceros? Is this an elephant? I have no idea. And as we all know, the famous box art depicts animals in cages being transported via circus train.
Like Dumbo. Like Casey
like
Jr.
Dumbo. There you go. So we're going to backtrack to that a little bit on the end, but that has been from day one. These little boxes look like train car. Look like a little train car. You can actually add wheels to the bottom and off you go. So according to eatwheat.org, a single bush of wheat can make approximately 245 boxes of Barnum animal crackers. This totals out to about 5,408 crackers per bushel. A single acre of wheat can produce about 226,380 animal crackers. So that's a lot of crackers.
That is a lot of crackers.
And they are baked around 4 minutes in a 300-foot conveyor belt oven, which converts to a rate of around 12,000 crackers per minute. So they are cranking these things out. And they were pretty big sellers right out of the gate. In 1935, Shirley Temple famously sang about animal crackers in her movie Curly Top. Nabisco even used it for years in her ad campaign. You know the song? Animal crackers in my soup.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So apparently, in the lyrics, she talks about monkeys and rabbits. There has never been a rabbit shape in all the years of animal crackers. I will tell you that for years, my nephew, we happened across that movie one day, or maybe it was a commercial, I don't know. But I taught him the song, Animal Crackers in My Soup. Eat them all up, and now they're in my poop. So that was... So the history of the animal designs is pretty long and diverse, and over the years, different animals have come and gone. There's been a total of 54 different animals in their 120-year history, including lions, elephants, hippos, zebras, monkeys, tigers, rhinos, and camels. And apparently there's more unique designs, which include toucans, crocodiles, mountain goats, and owls. Are we running out of animals here, Barnum?
You know what's the most striking thing to me about those boxes is the little string that you've got to hold.
We're gonna get there.
Oh, okay.
That's a little fun fact on the back end. You're jumping the gun, but yeah, you're right. That's the little red string is like synonymous with these boxes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna tell you right now. You know why? The string was added in 1902 Christmas season specifically so parents could hang them on a Christmas tree.
Oh.
As a gift. And there's some fact about how many thousands of yards of string they produce every year. So yeah, they've just maintained that little string all this time. Since 1995, Nabisco has partnered with various organizations to raise money for animal protections, including World Wildlife Fund, American Zoo, Aquarium Association, and they actually created a limited edition box supporting the tiger conservation. In 2002, to celebrate the 100th anniversary, Nabisco had a contest to choose the next animal they were going to add. It came down to the koala, the penguin, the walrus, and the cobra. Any guesses which one prevailed?
The penguin.
Koala.
The koala.
I don't know if I want to eat a cobra. And I thought there were walruses. How come I remember specifically a walrus on the box?
Maybe there is. Maybe he just never was represented as a cookie.
Oh, maybe. So going back to that box, in 2018, the animals were finally freed from their cages. So apparently PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, pressured Nabisco into releasing these animals, no longer depicting them in a cage. So now if you find a box, they are all roaming side by side out in the savannah somewhere, living in harmony, just like our animals in our
So it's like a Lion King kind of painting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we know in our first movie, they can only get along for so long. So I'm sure as soon as the guy was done painting that picture, the lion ate the giraffe.
Yeah, all in that one, stuffed in that one box? Come on.
Right. So PETA basically said, big victories can come in small packages, and no matter where we look, we find new evidence that people are embracing compassion for animals like never before. The new box for Barnum's animals perfectly reflects that our society no longer tolerates caging and chaining exotic animals for circus shows. And as we know, I think it was not long before that or after that Barnum basically stopped including animals in their acts altogether.
And 1 in every 6 boxes shows the animals mauling a poacher, apparently.
That would be good. Just a rhino with a guy attached to his horn. So, did you know there is one animal, the monkey, for whatever reason, is portrayed wearing pants?
Good.
Yeah.
Put pants on that monkey.
No fling and poo in this box. No. And April 18th is officially Animal Cracker Day.
April 18th?
April 18th. Yes. And I'm sure we can all agree that the first thing you do when you eat one of these is bite its head off.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because it's, even when you're holding it, you've got to hold the thick end.
The big end of it, right? Yeah. Right. So, off with his head. So that's my presentation on animal crackers. So I tell you, I really had to dig deep to try and find some kind of a connection between these two movies.
That is fantastic. That didn't even cross my mind. Animal crackers.
Yeah, we're digging deep on these concession treats here. Again, I mean, I don't think your local theater is going to sell animal crackers, but
you could sneak them in.
Listen, Five Below's right next door. Most of them.
Yeah. And they're portable with those strings. They're portable.
I found that fascinating, though, the string. So, very cool. So that's it.
All right.
Animal crackers.
Let's go back to the theater to 1986.
1986. Short Circuit. This was kind of like the heyday of friendly alien robot movies.
Now, does Wally tip more of the hat than we normally would see to number 5 here? He gave me number 5 is like, this is Wally. This is,
Yeah, Wally owes a huge debt to number 5 because, I feel that way. Speaking of which, we did cover Wally in episode 162, if you want to go back.
So you foresaw that I comparison.
Did see that, okay. As well as Iron Giant in the first movie, which you're ready for this? We have to go all the way back to episode 57.
Wow.
Where we talked about the Iron
Dark
Giant.
Ages. Dark Ages.
I know. It's crazy.
But this was a pre-summer release. It came out on the cusp of summer, May 9th, 1986. And I remember seeing this in the theater. I went and saw it.
Oh yeah, I was in college and we saw it.
Yeah, I was 15 when I saw this.
Yeah. What's more interesting is that the director, John Badham, he directed Blue Thunder, War Games, and Saturday Night Fever.
Yes. Now, I was all on board with this guy because Blue Thunder, that was,
I know, that's
if not the first, it was one of the first R-rated movies I got to go see in the theater. And for years, it was my favorite movie.
Was this all, did it have a little bit to do with Roy Scheider being in it as well? Being a Jaws aficionado?
I don't think I was a Jaws aficionado at that time. I knew him from Jaws, but Blue Thunder, it was all about the helicopter and the tech and
that's why we got Airwolf.
Yeah,
and Blue Thunder even had its own TV show for a bit, starring an unknown Dana Carvey. So, but this guy, like I said, the fact that he directed those two movies. Yeah, like he's like right on the cusp of this whole. I mean, Hollywood was really kind of nailing this future of remote warfare between War Games and then this. I mean, this is what we do now.
Yeah, although this is, with a much more warm and cuddly blanket around it than War Games.
Right, but to me, it's an extension of that era. Of that, we were kind of still living in that, Russians, the Soviets were the bad guys, and we got to build up this vast arsenal of weapons because we could be vaporized at any minute. And
of course, not only does it share the director, but of course, Ali Sheedy in both War Games and Short Circuit.
Yeah. And we get an homage to Saturday Night Fever in this movie.
Yes, we do. And more than homage, it's a whole sequence.
Well, it is a sequence. That is true. Yeah. So, but right off the bat, the minute this movie starts and you get these opening credits, you're like, dude, I am transported to the 1980s.
Well, the TriStar Pegasus opening.
Yeah. But that font is it just screams. Although you get the machine, you get the montage of the machine. And I mean, I'm like, did I accidentally put on Terminator?
Right. Because you get you're talking about the font. That's very early 80s Epcot Center vibes as well.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. I mean, movies cement themselves in their time and in place. Gets the point across. We're an industrial, opens right up to these this military installation. Was that Nova Laboratories?
I believe so. And these robots are called Saints.
Yes,
which is Strategic Artificially Intelligent Nuclear Transport.
Now, the military loves their acronyms. Do you come up with the acronym first and then figure out the words to spell in between, or is it backwards?
I think you got to come up with a cool acronym first and then figure it out. Okay, what can we?
Yeah.
What starts with S?
It's a mix of alphabet soup there, but
so these things are supposed to be parachuted in behind enemy lines, holding a nuclear weapon, and they just drive up Main Street with it in their arms.
I don't know if you pay attention. I did see there was a news article the other day. I don't know if the guy like robbed a bank or whatever, but they had him cornered in the house and they sent in one of these bomb robots. Like literally the scene of Stephanie's boyfriend. This guy's shooting at it with a shotgun and the robot just keeps coming and basically not only manhandled him, but then drove on top of him and pinned him down.
Did it slap him with this robotic hand?
And it went.
But yeah, you're right, because you see these robots in action because, again, I don't know how familiar you are with Blue Thunder, but that also opens with like a government, everybody on a
testing platform
on bleachers looking at stuff blow up, right? So that's what these robots are. They're blowing up empty tanks and empty Jeeps with their lasers, because not only
are they trying to sell these guys on this?
I guess
here's what we came up with. We want to sell it to the military.
But they all look mean. All these robots look mean because of what you were saying before with their, with the eyebrows, the visors above their eyes.
And that's so we'll talk about it because the gentleman who actually designed these robots, talk about the idea that was almost like a last minute inclusion. but they had to make it practical. Like they're like, we're not just putting these things on there to make it look comedic. You know, it has to have a practicality to it. So, you know, they're like visors. So it keeps, you know, it protects the eyes, the scanning eyes and stuff like that. But yeah, they're eyebrows. And they're mean. You ever see these people who put the little connectors on the front of their Jeeps now so that their Jeeps headlights look angry?
Yeah, I've seen
like,
that.
I drive by the Jeep and I'm like, why are you so mad? What did I do to you? Nothing.
Yeah, do you need gas? What's your problem?
Maybe he has gas. That's why he's mad. I don't know. So, but you would think if these guys are putting on this elaborate presentation, somebody would have consulted the forecast, because they have to cancel it because it's going to rain.
No, what's funny is that the director is saying this still bugs me to this day because before it rains, it's a bright blue sky. He's
right. Like, all of a sudden the clouds just come rolling in.
Yep.
And here's the thing, which is movie logic is silly, because lightning to most of us is destructive and deadly. And yet here, just like Caddyshack and
just like Frankenstein, that's what they're implying here, that it gives life.
Yeah. I don't think that's what God intended when he created lightning. I don't know. But yeah, there's a bunch of dignitaries there. The guy makes a shaken, not stirred joke, and the whole place erupts.
Let's point out that the guy that makes that joke is Austin Pendleton, who we know from the Muppet movie, who is Doc Hopper's assistant.
Oh yeah, his assistant, yeah.
Who changes heart like by the end of the movie, and he's with the Muppets.
How could you not? How could you not side with the Muppets at the end of that movie?
And okay, here's the elephant in the room.
Oof.
We're also introduced to the character of Ben. Now, when I saw this initially in the theater, I thought that this was an Indian actor. I didn't know who Fisher Stevens was.
Indian people thought that this guy was an Indian actor. Apparently, he looks just like one of their famous actors from that time, and people just assumed it was that actor.
And so it's Fisher Stevens, who is Caucasian, and his skin is painted brown, which is, even in 1986, questionable. You know, they did have Soul Man, but that was the point of that movie, as ill-conceived as it was. This is just a white actor playing another race. So again, I thought when I first saw this as a 15-year-old that this guy was the high point of this movie.
Yeah,
I thought he was brilliant, and I thought he was hilarious.
Because we didn't know any better.
No.
This is Apu level goofiness.
And of course, if you read anything, you know, Fisher Stevens, you know, I would never do that today. It's different.
No, he got called out. Yeah.
But it's like, to be fair to him, the part was written not as an Indian. It was just, he got the part and he was just going to play it as a Caucasian. And I think because of the character that Bronson Pinchot played in Beverly Hills Cop, they saw a lot of comedic opportunity there with somebody that didn't quite understand the language and would say funny things. And unfortunately,
and that's where all of his guffaws come from.
Yes. And they, as a matter of fact, they actually cast Bronson Pinchot initially in this role, and he couldn't do it because he had another commitment.
Interesting. What, 5 weeks or 5 months he went to India to learn this language just so he could mangle it.
But yeah, so he is pretty much at this presentation. He's like the roadie at the mixing board, right?
Well,
so
isn't him and Steve Gutenberg's are like partners in this lab?
They're like designers of the prototype of the robots, right?
And this is played for laughs that they basically live in the lab, toiling away, creating this thing. They haven't gone outside in months. Again, I don't know. Can I just go out on a limb and say Steve Gutenberg is not a good actor?
The Goot.
Well, first of all, he plays the same character in every movie. And don't get me wrong, he was on a high, right? You know, coming off Police Academy.
He's recognizable, right? He's your money in the bank if he's in this movie.
3 Men and a Baby, Cocoon, he's out there. But it just, that to me, he was goofy. And maybe because he was like this he was playing this nerd scientist that had been trapped away, and they're making misogynistic references to women because they've never encountered one or know how to deal with a woman. I don't know.
It's funny you say that, because one of the things that I read about the screenwriter being disappointed with the final product is that he wanted this to be a more serious movie. And he felt with Gutenberg in that role, it just turned the comedic aspects way up, and
I think
lost the seriousness.
Wait, you can't blame Gutenberg for that. The goofy robot is basically doing Looney Tunes.
Well, apparently Gutenberg didn't help, but apparently the original script wasn't anything like what we get.
So they wanted more like a War Games, like a serious. This thing is on the loose.
Yeah.
This is a Bugs Bunny cartoon. This is a kid level Bugs Bunny cartoon. And I'm going to say right now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a lighthearted romp. It's a bit dated. Like
you were saying, to watch this again, I probably could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
But to watch it again is just time capsule from the cheesy 80s music, from the Ali Sheedy being in it. And even the Goot himself, Gutenberg.
The Goot. Did he phrase that, or is that
no?
You?
That's me.
That's you, the Goot.
And that damn song was stuck in my head for 2 days after I watched this for this viewing.
Who's Johnny? He said,
I didn't realize that song is the movie's theme song. So that the video and everything was all tied to this movie.
Oh, you're right in the heart of MTV, where all these movies had song tie-ins, and your actors, or at least scenes from those movies, are going to show up in your music.
What's
video.
funny is, so this is a song "Who's Johnny" by El DeBarge. So the music video and the lyrics of the song just make you envision this anyway, but it takes place in a courtroom. And of course, Ali Sheedy is in the video, and she's on the stand, and the lawyers, "Who's Johnny?" like to her.
Mm-hmm.
And El DeBarge is on the stand, and they have a cardboard cutout of Steve Gutenberg on the stand at one point.
He couldn't show up.
He couldn't be bothered. Yeah. He did actually pose for the cardboard cutout, but he couldn't be bothered. Are you
sure he wasn't just a leftover prop from 3.5 Men? Or
the cardboard cut. It was a photo of him, but he had like jail garb on. So you assume that he was arrested, like for his part in shorts. I don't know.
Okay, keep going. But you're
right. Back to the movie.
But again, this is where we're smack dab in the middle of the movie world, where we're surrounded the era of friendly aliens, right? We got E.T., we got Cocoon, Batteries Not Included, Starman.
And Johnny is reminiscent of E.T. as well, if you think about it.
Yeah. Elf was big on TV at that time. Pretty much have a Police Academy reunion here, because the bad guy, well, he's not really a bad guy. He's just a soldier following orders. But I guess he's about as close as you get to a nemesis.
Captain Scroder, and they call him Captain Scrotum at one point.
I did read they literally named him that character just so they could make a scrotum joke. But this guy's basically playing the same character as
he was the guy whose head went up the horse's behind.
Yes,
right?
correct. Yes. So immediately this thing is struck by lightning, is self-aware, just like Roz, and runs away.
Well, accidentally gets loaded onto a garbage truck. So that's how he can escape this high-tech facility.
Well, like I said, shenanigans abound. This thing is just on the loose. And, they can't track it, or they're tracking it, but they don't believe that it's even off the grounds. And I'm like, you're 25 minutes into this movie before someone says, "Hey, it has a homie beacon. We should just turn that on." It's like, why don't we think of that first?
And the jokes that the character of Ben unleashed just come like fast and furious through this whole movie.
Yeah. And again, the turn of phrases that he gets wrong. Yeah,
and it's all based on like broken English or not understanding the right word to say.
Right.
Like, don't tell me it's laser still armed, bimbo, instead of bingo.
Bimbo. Yeah, I didn't even write half of his stuff down because I'm like, all right.
What if it melts a busload of nuns? What do you call that? Nun soup?
We got an exploding busload of nuns joke in there. It's like, wow. And yet he wanted this movie to be taken seriously.
So Schroeder just wants to destroy the robot, doesn't even want to get it back. He just wants to destroy it, even though his bosses are telling him, we need this thing. This is like $1 billion piece of machinery that we want back.
$11 million per robot.
Nope, I'm going to destroy it. I don't care.
Well, listen, give me an excuse to go and shoot something.
Yeah.
So I will say these security trucks are pretty dope. They've got some, but it, like you said, he's escaping and he falls off the bridge or jumps off the bridge and he uses the parachute. And I'm like, this thing has got to weigh tons. And yet somehow the parachute
that would destroy the parachute. It would just plummet.
Yeah.
He lands on Stephanie's Snack Shack truck. She's got a food truck, does Ali Sheedy, and she plays Stephanie here.
We get to Stephanie's house and she shelters homeless animals. She's got a skunk, a kitten, and a ferret all on her stovetop while she's making sauce.
Look at my ferret.
Yeah, remind me to never eat from her snack shack. That is disgusting.
I wonder if it was the same ferret that acted in Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, could be. What's he done since? Was he the same ferret from Beastmaster?
Yeah, he's just hanging out in Arnold Schwarzenegger's the trunk of his car. Whoa, wait a second, kids. I just remembered something.
I just have a ferret. Is that a ferret in your trunk?
This is my ferret.
My ferret. So we're introduced to Stephanie. She's got this snack shack, but it's all like healthy foods. It's like, I'm not pulling up to a food truck to eat what she have on her yogurt. I could buy yogurt in a grocery store. Thank you very much.
And she's got a scumbag ex-boyfriend, ex-husband.
I think it's a boyfriend, but we know he's a scumbag because he's wearing cowboy boots and flannel.
And he drives a Camaro.
Hat. And he drives a Trans Am.
And he's coming back to visit her and he says he's trying to get back together, but he just wants to take her dog so he can sell it to medical.
There's a lot going on there.
He can sell it to the medical research facility. So this true
dog. Were they trying to make it portray the dog that it only had 3 legs?
They were. And in the commentary, it said this dog was amazing. On command, it could pull up its
leg,
4th leg. But that's what it looks like it's doing in the movie. It doesn't look like it has 3 legs.
When it jumps off the roof and it lands on her shoulder, it clearly has 2 front legs. So, I guess it was supposed to. See, once again, misappropriation. You can't find a 3-legged dog to do that part.
Number 5 ends up on the top of Stephanie's food truck. Later that night, after the ex-boyfriend leaves, she finds number 5 inside her food truck, and she thinks it's an alien.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So immediately she's trying
to show him the ropes of what's life like here on Earth. And so what is he saying? Input.
Yeah.
Yep.
Later he sees her naked. He's like, oh, nice software. Want to see my hardware? Like, easy there, big guy. Stephanie Soft. But this is also what makes me laugh because this is a quintessential 80s shtick, which is this movie's just crammed full of product placement.
Oh, yeah. They show like 4 commercials back to back from what she's watching on television. Yeah.
But immediately he sees a sign when he first escapes with the Dr. Pepper. You got that. You're right. You get the Alaska Airlines.
I know. Did they actually pay to get into this movie?
Brawny paper towels. Not only do you see the ad, but they're also on the stove, the hot stove, where the ferret and the skunk are hanging out.
And didn't they have the Duracell commercial in there?
There's Duracell, there was Charmin, Thomas English muffins. Obviously, we got the Pontiac with the Trans Am, Campbell's soup.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a load. And you want to call out Superman 2 for the Marlboro truck? This is like a sin. But yeah, maybe this is where they made their money, or maybe not. I don't even know. If companies back then were paying for product placement.
But he's watching. That's why you see these commercials. Number 5 is watching TV. And most importantly, he sits through these commercials just to see the 3 Stooges. So that comes into play a little bit later.
He does. At some point, he actually becomes Robin Williams, where he's changing voices and things that he's heard on TV. And again, this is an E.T. shtick where E.T.'s home when Elliot's at school and he's watching TV. How else are you going to learn, I guess?
And she finally wisens up because she sees the company's insignia on number 5 at
It
one
does
point.
take her a very long time. I will say there's a point where he speed reads all her books. And I'm like, did he attend Evelyn Wood's School of Speed Reading?
Yeah.
I'm like, that right there is a deep cut. I don't even think that exists anymore.
But they were saying on the commentary how that was such a pain, that effect, because they had to move the robot's
I think
arm
they
so
used
quickly.
I think they used an air gun though.
Yeah, that's all it was an air gun. Yeah.
Yeah, you just shoot over the shoulder, so you're not really seeing the hand per se.
So she calls up Nova looking for a reward to return the robot.
This is nice. It's nice that you can just pick up the phone and call your local top secret military base.
Yeah, these nuclear robots have a phone number on them, right?
If lost, please return to.
Yep. But then there's that really weird part where he hops following the grasshopper.
I also, because he's got these big giant treads, and yet somehow he's like flipping through the air. I also like for a robot that has no feet, he can drive pretty good.
Because now he realizes once he crushes the grasshopper that it means that it's dead, and that dead equals to him disassembling. Yeah. So he knows that if Nova comes for him, he will be disassembled. So now he is on the run. He does not want to be taken by Nova.
Yeah.
Nova knows that Stephanie has this robot. They're all looking for her. Gutenberg.
Well, she asked him at a certain point, do you have a reward for this?
Yep.
Clearly, it looks like she needs money. Did you pick up on where the house is?
I saw that it was right by like a very scenic bridge on the river.
It's the same. It's Astoria, Oregon, where the Goonies and Free Willy and Kindergarten Cop are all filmed.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a shared universe right there.
Right. Gutenberg and Ben get on board with Stephanie. Long story short, through some comedic shenanigans, they realize that number 5, although it takes most of the movie.
Even after he's talking with the robot, it takes him all night before he comes to the conclusion that this thing is sentient.
Yeah.
Because he tells it a joke. All right, I've done everything I can. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy.
And at some point, the ex-boyfriend sees it and tries to get his hands on the robot to return it for the reward money.
Well, but there was never mention of a reward money. When she first called, she asked if there's a reward.
But didn't it become like 25,000, right?
Yeah, it's like 25,000. So that's why the boyfriend shows up with a shotgun.
Yeah, if you told her that to begin with, then, case
all
closed.
Right, it's yours. There you go. Yeah, I could use that. Yeah, especially after he destroyed my truck. I could use that money. That's a lot of cat chow and skunk chow.
As you say, that there's that whole sequence because Saturday Night Fever is on the TV. The More Than a Woman sequence. So he dances with Stephanie, number 5, and does the famous twirl. Is that the first time that was ever done, when the point of view, when you're twirling your dance partner and it's like you're looking at them, was in Saturday Night Fever?
I don't know if that was the innovators of that, but that is an iconic scene. And even in Airplane, they spoofed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think I was confusing this with the sequel, but not until the very end does the robot call itself Johnny. So here I am thinking its name is Johnny 5, and I'm like, where did he, where's...
No, he pulls it from the song.
Where's Johnny?
Yeah,
where's Johnny?
He pulls it from the song. Did you read this, which is when he's first in the truck and he turns on the radio? It was originally, and it's playing Who's Johnny, but it was supposed to be Dire Straits, Money for Nothing.
Really?
And they couldn't get the rights. I cannot stand the Dire Straits. I think they are the worst band on the planet. And I don't need to associate that song with this movie.
That would have given it a whole different vibe. Well, again,
it's just, I guess it's just right. It's just the scene where he's in the Nova truck.
Oh, okay.
But you bought this song, El DeBarge.
I mean, are they going to drive off into the sunset at the end, and number 5 is going to be singing along, money for nothing and your chicks for free.
Your robots for free. I don't know. Yeah, this is where it devolves into shenanigans. He reprograms the 3 robots that they send after him. What happened to the 5th one? But he reprograms them to look like the Three Stooges and to act like the Three Stooges.
Yes, even
So,
they physically, there's like one of them has mud on its head that looks like
he's got
Moe, and
moss on its head or whatever. Right?
Yep.
But not before he says, "Hey, Laser Lips, your mom was a snowblower." I'm like, okay, Mom, what does that mean? Never mind. But you're right. This scene with Newton, Steve Gutenberg character is Newton. And he has this kind of overnight one-on-one with number 5.
Yep. And,
so it takes him all movie to interact with this thing.
And 5 tries to explain to him that life is not a malfunction, because that's what Gutenberg has been saying this entire movie. It's malfunction.
Right. Yeah, it's not. It's a malfunction. She does bring him soup and he drinks it in the morning. And I'm like, that's cold soup. That's gazpacho.
The other thing that sells Gutenberg is the Rorschach test, right? Like, what do you see in this?
Yeah.
A butterfly.
Yeah, well, right. Initially, you're right. It takes him a lot to buy into it.
The climax of the movie takes place in the desert suddenly that they're in.
Right, they were on the coast.
Nova catches up with them, and 5 escapes speeding off into the desert. There's a chopper that comes in, shades of Blue Thunder, right? With a
Maybe
grenade launcher.
That's the 5th one.
Could be.
That has to be the 5th one.
Yeah.
But where did those parts come from?
It for all intents and purposes, it looks like number 5 is no more. Gets blown up.
And they actually duped me because it's been so long since I've seen this movie. I really thought they blew him up, and I'm like, is this going to be like an Iron Giant at the end where like one part is still moving and
they rebuild him or something?
Right,
yeah.
Because I do know.
I didn't remember. So
right, there is a sequel with what's his name, Ben. We find out that number 5 is
but even like nobody was in on the gag because Stephanie and Newton think that he's gone.
Right.
So they drive off in disgust, and Nova doesn't care that they're driving off. They're like, yeah, go ahead. We just blew him up.
But we find out that Newton quit, but he still has the Nova truck. He's still driving the truck. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't quit and leave with company property. And yes, we find out that number 5 is still alive, hiding in the truck. Yep. How? I have no idea, because the truck, it's a pretty sizable robot.
Yeah, there was like a Millennium Falcon, like fake floor on the bottom of the truck that he was hiding in.
But every truck that he's in, he rips the seat out in order to be able to drive. Right. So how is Gutenberg even driving this thing? Did he go back to the desert and pick up the seat?
He's just crouching. That's what he's doing.
I don't know. And this is where, like you said, this is where he decides that he's going to name himself Johnny.
The robot that blew up, number 5 built out of spare parts in the back of this truck and sent him off to run away. So
hey, build a decoy.
Then Newton says something, oh, my family's got a ranch in Montana. Let's go there. And
how convenient. You've been hiding away in this lab for 5 years or something. You said you haven't been outside in 5 years. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm rich. Oh, okay. That's good to know.
And then the credits roll over the Nova truck driving off into the sunset, and then we get like that sitcom greatest hits of all like the scenes that you've already seen.
Yeah, there's a couple that were not in the movie though.
There were a couple.
There's some edited out scenes. But again, this is 80s. This is the the montage, freeze frame of Ali Sheedy, Steve Gutenberg, and yeah, it's fun. Listen, like I said, this is silly kid fare with Looney Tunes level hijinks. You don't care about the nerdy computer guys. You don't care about the girl. It's all about the robot.
Yeah.
And I think that's enough. I think I enjoyed this immensely watching this again.
It's a time capsule. It is.
Yeah. Yes,
although now that you know that Ben is who he is, that's distracting at first. Like
it is.
You're trying to get over that.
But we talk about this all the time. You putting these movies in context to when they're made, and it was just a product of its time.
And apparently, I'm just looking at some of the quotes from the reviews at the time, and none of the reviewers picked up on that either.
No, Roger Ebert did not give it a good review. And I think that he actually mentions a questionable decision on Fisher Stevens' part.
Oh, does he? Because the only quote I see from Ebert is it's too cute for its own good. And Vincent Canby of the New York Times described it as cheerful and inoffensive. I don't think you could call it inoffensive today.
But again, At one point, we accepted John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. So, watching Cowboys and Indian F Troop.
It is.
Guys
It
running
is
around
fun.
and-
I will admit that it is a fun
Yeah,
watch.
I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I don't need to watch the sequel by any means, especially if
I
Ben
did
is your
see the
main.
sequel. I did see it at some point.
I probably did. At the time, I don't need to go back and watch it.
Doesn't have Gutenberg, is what you were saying?
I don't think so. No, I think the movie poster is specifically Fisher Stevens' character and Johnny poking their head out of a manhole. And maybe they're in the city. I don't remember now.
So as we said, the movie came in to be 21st at the box office in 1986. On a $15 million budget, it made $40 million at the box office. All right, what would we give? What kind of buckets out of 5 would we give?
I'm gonna go 3.5.
3.5.
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
I'll go the same. I'll give it the same as Wild Robot. 3.5.
I do want to give credit to the two guys who actually designed and executed the robot, which is Sid Mead and Eric Allred. Allard. So they designed Johnny Five, and basically it's a remote control puppet, for lack of a better term. It's they're off camera with a control, whatever. But the puppeteer Tim Blaney basically was on set doing the voice, and they had every intention of replacing that voice. It was just a placeholder. And after weeks and weeks of filming, the director's like, you know what? This is the voice now. We're not replacing you. That's his claim to fame. Yeah, I did see 2013. There was announced that there was a remake in development, and that Fisher Stevens was rumored to return as Ben, but I think they've thought otherwise about that.
Yeah, as they should.
And I don't know if you remake this now. I don't think so. I don't think you need to.
No, just leave it. Leave it as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're going to make him into something that we don't want to see. Maybe they will make it more serious.
All right.
It was fun.
Okay. What else did we do?
All right. Why don't you go first, since I did I blabbled on about the confession.
All right. The never-ending treasure trove that is Tubi yielded another one from me this past week.
Okay.
Just a movie that I've always just heard of, that I've never seen, available in a video store, available on TV to watch. It's just been like spoken about in hushed corners of cult movie books. And I'm talking about the first feature of director John Landis called Schlock, which is about an escaped gorilla Bigfoot thing that goes on the rampage in Southern California and kills multiple people, but it is a comedy. It is.
Oh, it is a comedy.
It is a comedy, and it's in the vein of, if you've ever seen Kentucky Fried Movie.
Sure.
It is very much in that vein, with lots of references and asides, and it's John Landis in the costume. It's one of the early on-screen makeup jobs of Rick Baker. So,
oh, wow. Didn't Landis also direct Kentucky Fried Movie?
Yes,
he did. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, he did. It's funny. It really is. I would recommend, if you've got Tubi, to hunt it down if you've never seen it before.
I might have to go check that out.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known last week when I'm hanging out doing nothing for a week. Schlock. I never even heard of it. John Landis. All right. Well, I did not watch a movie, but I did fulfill something I wanted to do for pretty much since I found out it existed. As I mentioned, on vacation in the Adirondacks up in the Lake George area. If you travel 40 minutes north to Ticonderoga, you will discover Star Trek, the original series set tour.
Oh, yes. I saw photos of this on Facebook.
So this gentleman, James Cawley, who, from what I understand, actually worked on The Next Generation, so he's got a bit of a pedigree, found himself with the original floor plans and schematics for the Star Trek sets of the original series, and he's rebuilt them lovingly you walk in and you're ill prepared. The lighting, everything. You get a 1 hour tour. When you first walk in, it is a museum. There is probably a 30-foot Enterprise hanging from the ceiling, and the cabinets all around. They've got original costumes. They've got one of the original 6 Star Trek phasers in existence. There's a lot of replicas, reproductions, stuff like that. But they give you the entire history of, Desilu Studios and Lucille Ball and how she championed this show. And those doors slide open and you just walk inside the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely gorgeous.
Does it do the sound effect when the doors
They
slide
do the
open?
sound effects. As a matter of fact, she even set off the red alert, which this was her 3rd tour of the day. I can't remember the young lady's name. She did a fantastic job. And she pressed the button in the hallway and it set off the red alert. But you're just walking from room to room. And it's funny because, like, we've all watched this show. And after the tour, I found Star Trek Channel on my LG TV. And if you don't pay attention to the characters and you look at the background, you're like, they nailed it. And I guess this guy did numerous research, especially now they re-released all those episodes in high definition a couple years ago. So going back, finding props, there was one of the stories was in Kirk's quarters, there is a gold box that sits on his shelf behind him. And for years, they couldn't figure out where it came from, because a lot of the stuff was just found, just crap laying around.
Right.
Repurposed or whatever. And he stumbles across one on eBay. And lo and behold, the person selling it happened to be a granddaughter of somebody who worked on the original set. And it was the actual prop.
Oh. So,
but like the Saurian brandy bottles, like salt and pepper shakers that they repurpose as these tools in McCoy's office, just little random stuff. But boy, you go through the entire tour and they open those doors and you walk out onto the bridge. Now you're not allowed to touch anything. You can't sit in the chairs. Some of these chairs are from the 60s. They as much as possible tried to find original, the same items that they use, not necessarily something that was used on there. They do have some screen items, screen used stuff like costumes and stuff like that. But walking out on that bridge and you can sit in that captain's chair and you can take a picture. And William Shatner is there all the time. They do these meet and greets. Jonathan Frakes, I think Shatner's going back up there in November. Robin Curtis, who played Lieutenant Savick, is going to be there. Anson Mount, who now currently plays the captain in Strange New Worlds, has been there. And they actually went out of their way to recreate the original. If you watch, so Star Trek only lasted 3 seasons, and I'm sorry, I don't want to nerd out too much, but they recreated the original captain's chair. It's slightly different than what once season 2 and 3 came, they redesigned it, and it has like these old lamp heads that curl up, and they almost look like the heaters, like when you go to a Sizzler and they keep your food warm on the tray or whatever before they bring it out. But lights, everything's blinking and moving, and it really is. If you find yourself up in that area, do yourself a favor and go check it out. And what was cool is, as my tour maybe had 10 people total. So not a large group, and you book your time slot or whatever, and you get your hour tour. And like I said, you can upgrade and do like a photo shoot. They do give you time on the bridge to take pictures and stuff like that in the captain's chair. But not only did we have a sighting of this James Cawley, the guy who created it, but wandering around on the set in the background was David Gerard, who is famous for writing one of the most infamous Star Trek episodes, which is The Trouble with Tribbles.
Really?
And he was just wandering around talking with people. And it's pretty wild. And thankfully, my cousin and her husband were in, and I convinced him to get, he's a Next Generation fan. I said, that's all right. All denominations are welcome in the Star Trek church. because as much as I love my wife, I would not subject her to this. This is just nerd to the nerd level. It's insane. And I want to go back. I have a buddy who's been there 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so like you want to spend extra time in some of those rooms.
Oh, of course.
It has been lovingly recreated. And like I said, they talk about in each one of the rooms too, they have, whether it's on the computer screen or if it's up on a television monitor, scenes from the show depicting that room. So you kind of get a juxtaposition of, well, here's what it looked like on the TV show and here's what it is lovingly recreated. And they'll point out, this was a piece of styrofoam, these balls were something. These are oven racks that they used at the time. So they've done their homework and very cool. So
did you put them on our Facebook page or your Facebook page?
I put them on our Instagram page, but I think they're also shared on the Facebook page.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah. And the transporter room, which is one of the first rooms you walk into, is pretty cool. So yes, I did. You can see me in my nerdy Star Trek shirt.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. What are we going to do next time? I think we're finally going to be able to view Joker 2.
Yeah, it's going to drop next week, so we'll cover it in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Fully adieu.
Gotten reports that this is a musical. I don't know how true that is. When I hear musical, I think music all the way through it, and the plot is driven by songs.
Yeah, no, I think it just breaks out in musical montages.
Yeah.
So I am going to have to go back and watch. This is the sequel to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yes,
which dropped a couple years ago and was gangbusters. I mean, it broke records.
And if you remember, I think we were both a bit apprehensive about seeing that in the theater because of reports of violence at showings. So hopefully everybody's under control now.
Why were they getting upset about it?
I don't know. But yeah, along with Joker 2, because it's rumored to be in that musical vein, we thought maybe we'll go in the musical route ourselves, and look at a second musical fantasy. And we're really digging on this one.
Yeah, this is a deep cut right here.
Yeah. Bugsy Malone.
Now you said 1976.
1976. So this is a musical, a gangster, like 20s era gangster musical, entirely populated by kid actors.
With cream puff machine guns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster in all of her Taxi Driver glory, along with Scott Baio. Future Chachi. Yeah.
My wife is going to be elated to watch this.
This is, or was, an HBO staple.
Yes. Yeah, which is probably where I saw it. Yeah.
It was on constantly on HBO. So I watched it, every time that it was on because you had no other choice. You just watch what's on, true. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Very cool.
We'll see if it holds up.
Yeah, we'll see if Joker holds up.
Yeah.
There's some early screening reviews that are questionable, but as we say all the time, go see it for yourself, man. Yeah. Make up your own mind. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to critics.
But if you listened, thank you.
Yes, thank you. If you made it this far, appreciate it. All right.
Bye. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Oh, nice software. Want to see my hardware?